Good morning, Cardinals fans, and welcome into the morning scramble. Cardinals get the big Monday night win in the Big D. But before we get more into this one, be sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of our exclusive Cardinals content. Let me introduce you to our breakfast club here. I'm Lisa Matthews, Kyle Odegaard, Jody Jackson, and Felipe Corral Jr. here with you. Guys, I hope you got your coffee. It was a late one last night. We're here bringing the morning scramble here to you. Let's get right into the main dish. Now, Kyler Murray remains undefeated at AT&T Stadium. He was all the talk guys leading into this one, but it was the defense that showed up big in prime time. Kyle, now what impressed you most about this? The defense and the takeaways that they were able to do, or just the number of players that stepped up on the defense in this one?
I think the takeaways were huge, and the Cardinals defense only had 2 in the first 5 games. They played pretty well overall, but those splash plays were missing. So I think that stood out to me, having 4 takeaways. And just the defense in general has been so good. Like all offseason, we talked about the offense and Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins and Cliff Kingsbury. They completely took a back seat, and the defense has been the best part of the Cardinals through 6 games. So I think it's been a really cool turn of events for that group. And now you start looking at it, and if the offense can continue to improve, if the defense stays where it's at, this team is definitely a playoff contender if you get both of those working in synergy. Jody,
Yeah.
what stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to name our players of the game later on. So I'm going with Vance Joseph right here at the top of the show because I just thought it was really impressive. All of these guys stepped up, and I know it's the players that had to go out and execute and play. But early on, we saw Gardeck again, should have had that safety. We saw Jordan Hicks, who almost had an interception. That would have been another turnover for the Cowboys. But I was impressed with that game plan, a lot of blitzing, very aggressive. And I just got to be honest. I mean, and no disrespect to the defense, I think this is a good defense. I was a little concerned about the secondary, though, knowing the weapons that the Cowboys had. I mean, I was just blown away by the fact that Andy Dalton and these receivers could not get on the same page. Elliott gets benched after the fumbles for a bit. And it just wasn't what I expected, but it was great to see because I think it's everyone playing up to their capability. Because, Dalton completed some passes after Dak went out last week, and it was very emotional. And I thought, Andy Dalton, he's a veteran. They completely shut him down. They shut it all down, and I thought it was very impressive to see. And I think that secondary really held up well yesterday. Felipe, what about you?
Yeah, I have 2 key points. Shout out that Dallas defense for being below average, I should say. But on the flip side, Kyler Murray 7-0 at AT&T Stadium, dating back to his high school days. And in all 7 games, he's had 3 total touchdowns. So I think you heard it all throughout the national broadcast and in our pregame show on YouTube that, he loves playing at that Cowboys Stadium. He's comfortable there. One of our videographers, Jesse Aranda, got him after the game, and he basically said, I'm not going to lie, I was expecting this coming into the game. He had a feeling that he was going to show out. And, I think what gives me confidence is he only had 9 completions on the day, and he still balled out. He had, in terms of fantasy, he had like 28 to 30 fantasy points. He's basically at home when they play at AT&T Stadium. So, Kyler Murray for the day. Lisa?
Home sweet home. And that trips me out too. Kyle and I were perplexed after the game. 9 completions, yet he seems to erase it with what he's able to do with his speed and still make Murray magic happen. So
one completion in the second half. Blows my mind. They scored 17 points and completed 1 pass in the second half.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of great moments to relish in this one. It's time for That's My Jam. Kyle, lead it off here. What's your jam?
My jam was Budda Baker's forced fumble, and this game started very slowly for both teams. The offenses were not in sync, and the Cowboys seemed like they were getting something going a little bit. And Budda Baker had that really nice play, getting the ball from Ezekiel Elliott and really stopping the momentum of the Cowboys and giving the Cardinals really good field position, which they turned around and scored a touchdown with and kind of got the ball rolling offensively. So this game was a blowout, and obviously the Cardinals took control. But if the Cowboys scored on that first possession, you don't know if Kyler Murray is going to start pressing even more at that point and wanting to make something happen. So this game might have looked a little bit differently if the Cardinals didn't have those early turnovers and Budda Baker really started it off with that forced fumble.
Jody, what you got?
My jam is shortly after that play. And like Kyle said, they don't score, they end up turning it over. And that momentum after kind of a sloppy first quarter by both teams, the quarter ended on a positive note going into the second quarter for the Cardinals, because my jam is Kyler to Christian Kirk on the shovel pass. And this happened so quickly, just the misdirection and then the speed of Christian Kirk going to the edge. This was the first of what would become kind of a really big day for Christian Kirk back in Texas. Of course, played at Texas A&M, and Cliff Kingsbury with a nice play there, good execution by the Cardinals. And you just love to see that, getting a lot of different players in the mix. We're going to see a very contrasting touchdown to Kirk in a little bit, but I just love to watch this because, really that's almost unstoppable right there, because the Cowboys didn't see that coming at all. And just a quick little flip there from Kyler to Kirk. And, we're going to see more of that creative play calling, but right there in that moment, it was the start of big things for the Cardinals offense. Maybe not in the way that we thought. Again, that was just 9 completions for Kyler Murray, but that was a big one, even though just a little tiny pass. Felipe, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going back to Budda Baker, who had a phenomenal game, a sack, a forced fumble, a couple QB hits, and he topped it off, that cherry on top, with that interception on the Arizona 10-yard line. And it's just honestly a reflection of that secondary all game long. He basically brings the intensity. He's a leader in that secondary. And, I was so happy for Budda, because coming into the season, once he got paid, everyone was like, oh, he's overpaid. He hasn't had an interception. And Budda basically said, hold my drink. And he did it on prime time, I'm so happy, because I see so many players across the league giving him love. Tyrann Mathieu was giving him love, just George Kittle, just to name a couple of people. So I'm just happy for Budda Baker. He's the best defender on that Arizona Cardinals defense. Yeah, I said it. Sorry, Patrick Peterson, but there's some new young blood in town. Lisa?
Felipe, what did you think about his bowling execution? Just the walk up, the nice release there, the pins falling down.
I gotta see him on an actual bowling alley, but he has some potential. I'm a competitive guy, so I don't think he'd be able to, get me in a game.
You're always trying to go up against these guys.
That's the only thing I have against these players. I mean, they play in the NFL, so if I can beat them in dancing, if I can beat them in bowling, I think I feel pretty good about myself.
I gotta say though, I loved that choreography. I mean, that was nice, especially because we found out, I think it was just pregame, Pat P had said, let's do this. It wasn't perfect, like if you're gonna really look at it, but hey, I loved how they all got in on it, and it just speaks to them having so much fun.
Exactly, especially on the primetime stage. I think we can go back to maybe 2015 since this kind of swag has been in the team like this. I can go back then. I can't remember since then when the team was really having truly this much fun. So to do it on the primetime stage for me, that was great to see. Love the bowling, love the dancing. Could have seen more Gardex moves, obviously, on the primetime stage, but maybe we'll have to wait a little bit more for that. Okay, so my jam in this, and Felipe, I'm sorry, you probably cannot do this. It's the 80-yard touchdown by Kirk. It was 4:53 left in the first half. Kyler throws it deep to Kirk. He says, go get that on the go route, right on the money. Just a beautiful throw, a beautiful catch. Just, former Texas A&M, another guy with some Texas roots showing out at AT&T Stadium. And it was the second touchdown for Kurt on the day, like Jody said, and just so great to see him be able to have, a breakout performance like this. He's been plagued with injuries every year. We know what he's capable of doing. And we know the connection that Murray has with Kurt. Obviously, they played together their freshman year and just kept in touch since then. And we know what's possible with them. So having that deep ball, again, 9 completions on the day. This was one of them, one of the 9 that was pretty and good to see for Kurt. Felipe, could you do that?
No. I plead the fifth. I probably cannot. One, I cannot throw past probably like 10, 15. And two, I probably cannot run as fast as Christian Kirk ran or cut as, as elusive as he cut on that specific play. So I plead the fifth. I'm sorry, guys. Won't be able to do that.
You know who also had his return to AT&T Stadium? Derek Spencer, and those beauty shots. I mean, he was on one yesterday for Monday Night Football. So many photos. You gotta have to check it out on our Instagram, of course, our website, but he got some money photos for sure. Well, how about we head into the winning locker room? There were a few game balls delivered from Cliff Kingsbury. Take a look.
We like playing with bright lights. All right, let's play ourselves into a lot more of these games. All right, that night game, I can tell we like this moment. Let's play ourselves into more of these games. All right, got some game balls. Got some game balls, quite a few of them. First and foremost, I think he's now like 10-0 in this stadium. Number one, Kyler Murray. All right.
Now, I believe it was Murray that got a game ball, Jordan Phillips. Was it, who else? Budda Baker. Am I missing one?
Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk. There you go. Christian Kirk got a game ball. So that leads us into our players of the game. Who are we giving game balls to? It's our Rise and Shine players of the game. Kyle, take it away.
Good segue, because my player is Christian Kirk, and you guys have talked about him a decent amount already, but I just think his emergence is so important for this offense. That long catch was incredible. Him with his fingertips doing what he did, and the ability to catch the ball and to not dive and not fall down. I thought it was an incredible display of dexterity by Christian Kirk. And I just think having him and DeAndre Hopkins together is a really nice duo. I think the Cardinals needed somebody to emerge as a second receiving option deep, and Christian Kirk is doing it. So I just think a really nice performance from him. Jody, who was yours?
Well, I am going to go with one of the defensive players that had a couple impact plays in this one, but it's also because of the week that he had and the tragedy in his family. But I'm going with Mr. Jordan Phillips, who had a forced fumble and a recovered fumble. Actually, it was in the other order: recovered the fumble, forced a fumble, and just a part of a feeding frenzy by that defense surrounding Dalton and getting into the backfield. He had a couple hits on Dalton, he had a couple tackles. But it broke my heart earlier in the week when I saw Jordan Phillips tweet out that he was struggling with the ability to go to his father's service. He lost his father, I believe, suddenly. And, he wanted to go to the service and still play in the game. And, the Cardinals, I understand, were able to make that happen. Michael Bidwell, making that happen where he could go to that service on Saturday and still go through the COVID protocols to play in the game on Monday night. And, he had to have a heavy heart, but he played his heart out on that field. And I think it meant a lot to his teammates to see that as well. So Jordan Phillips, a great game after a very difficult week, and he is my Rise and Shine player. Felipe, how about you?
I'm going to say I'm pretty impressed with Kyle's vocabulary this morning. I think he said dexterity. I've never.
He's a writer.
Go to dictionary.com when we're finished, Felipe.
I need to, take a page out of your vocabulary, of your dictionary. Do you have a dictionary sitting next to you or something like that?
It's all up here, baby.
Oh man, I need to get on your level. But my player is, and shout out to, this is a fantasy football friendly player because Kenyan Drake has been taking a lot of heat in these first 5 weeks, 6 weeks of the season. People in my leagues are like, Kenyan Drake, what's going on with Kenyan Drake? Is he going to go off? Should I trade him? And again, my first rule is I'm never going to tell you what to do with your fantasy teams. But I did say a couple of times on Twitter, Cliff Kingsbury doesn't stop believing in this guy. I mean, he's had 16 or more carries in 5 of his 6 games. That means Cliff still has confidence in Kenyan Drake. And he went off yesterday, 2 touchdowns, 20 carries, 164 yards. And I was, doom scrolling on my Twitter feed, and a lot of people were winning their leagues by a point, 0.2, 0.3, based off that 69-yard rushing touchdown by Kenyan Drake. And trust me when I say Katie pays attention to what y'all say about fantasy, his performances, a couple of his wired clips that come out on our YouTube page. He's talking to some of the guys win or lose. People are always on my feed talking about, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Well, take this, y'all. He gave y'all about 28 to 29 fantasy points today. He went off, and it comes at the right time because he loves playing against Seattle. You saw the performance he had against them last season with that 80-yard touchdown run at Seattle. So it comes at the right time. I know, Kyle, you mentioned that Christian Kirk's performance comes at the right time for this offense breaking out, and I think it's safe to say that KD, doing what he did last night comes at the right time too for this offense. And you mentioned Kyler Murray only completing 9 passes. So imagine Kyler Murray completing 15 to 20 passes and KD rushing for a touchdown or 2 and Christian Kirk doing everything he does. And not to mention DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald. So all of this is coming at the right time. Lisa?
Yeah, that's what's exciting, Felipe, when all of it will start to click together. We've seen both sides kind of show out, and to be able to stick to the run game, to me, that was important. Obviously, it paid off in the end. And for those fantasy owners, Felipe, I'm sure that they are glad they stuck with Drake, through it all. Like he said, let me bless you right now. Just drop me and stop talking about it. But you know what? Those that stuck with him, it paid off in the end. So I'm going to talk about my rise and shine player of the game, and it is Budda, rocking everywhere. Sorry, I had to do that. It's my thing. It's me and Grayson. Shout out to Grayson, one of our producers. It's our jam. Okay, so Budda, may I say Captain Budda. He was named captain after Chandler Jones went on IR. Obviously, those guys, they're 2 peas in a pod. They watch film together. They bring the energy together. Now with Jones out, Budda always is the energy. He always sparks that energy for this defense as it is, but even more so, he showed up like he always does. He was dominant from the start to the finish in yesterday's game. 7 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, and an interception. Again, we talked about him getting his first pick and just proving he's worth, guys, every penny that he is paid. He's the highest paid safety and probably deserves more. Don't tell Steve Keim I said that, but he's just the guy that is a spark plug for this defense. And we talked a lot about it going into this game, how it was going to be a collective effort, right? With Jones going out, not only in that front 7, but everyone coming together. So we knew that the stars were going to have to shine bright in this one, which leads us into Jody Jackson. She's going to bring home the bacon here today. Jody, what you cooking up for
you
us?
guys have brought a lot. We've had a lot of points made, a lot of players honored because everyone did a great job in this one. But real quick point though too, before I do bring home the bacon, what Lisa said, you're right about Budda and what we saw in the game that he didn't play. I mean, thankfully, I'm still thankful he only missed 1 game. He's out there, he's a tough guy, and he's doing all he can to play. He even got his pick, with his 9 fingers. He's able to make it happen, and he is worth every penny. Jordan Phillips mentioned that after the game as well. So he's so valuable. But what we saw in this game, again, touching back on Kyler, only 9 completions. DeAndre Hopkins, wasn't that much of a factor by nature of the fact that there were only 9 completions. I mean, remember how many balls I think through the first 5 games, he had 45 catches. So you just look at it and say they were able to put up 38 points, and the defense was such a big part of that, but they were able to make plays when it counted, and big plays like to Christian Kirk with the 80-yard touchdown. And so the stars came out on prime time, and on that stage, I think a lot of people nationally were able to see what the Cardinals have going here, which is it a completely finished, polished product? No, but what NFL team is? We've already seen that this year. I think everyone thought the Packers were a pretty good team. And, look what happened to them. Now, the Cardinals are going to go up against Seattle. This is going to be a great test. It's going to be back home in the building they're familiar with, although they do love playing in Seattle too. So hopefully none of that matters. I think one thing we're learning this year is, you can't really worry about where you are and who's there. It's about you and what you're doing. And I'm going to love to see the game plan now for a guy like Russell Wilson. Now, we know what we saw with Andy Dalton was very different than what Dak Prescott was doing with these receivers and Elliott. Everyone was better around him because of his running threat, because of his ability to run that offense. And that's an offense that was putting up 30-plus points. Now, this defense gets the challenge of the Seahawks. I can't wait to see what they can do. I can't wait to see them hopefully shine. And then I don't think we're going to see a game, like that from Kyler Murray. I was so surprised to see it. He said it wasn't as good as it could have been, even though they won 38-10. So offensively and defensively, can they put it together? Because it really is going to take a great effort on both sides of the ball and special teams wise as well to beat the Seahawks. But here in Arizona, a lot of people are starting to believe that they could pull it off because of what we saw on Monday night, guys.
Yeah, a well-rested Seahawks team, like you mentioned, they'll be coming off their bye, and the Cardinals in a short week. But Kyle, can the momentum, yes, I said it, momentum, carry them forward into this game after the defensive effort that they put forth against the Cowboys?
I don't think momentum matters, but I do think this is a good team. I mean, you look at what the defense did. Like Jody said, they only completed 9 passes. Kyler Murray is a more accurate quarterback than he showed to the nation. So people are going to be wondering, can he not be a pocket passer? But we've seen him throw the ball well. I think he was amped up to play in this game, overthrew some passes, but accuracy to me is not a concern. I just think overall, this is a very balanced, very talented team, and we'll see exactly how they do against the Seahawks, but the ceiling seems to keep getting raised week by week.
And the Cardinals will get to have about 1,200 fans at State Farm Stadium to watch them take on this divisional foe. Again, that NFC West, the standings there are so close, so important to get these wins here, right?
I wish we were in that Dallas, Eagles, Washington, Giants division, man. It's just like, I can't believe the Cowboys are still in first place after that.
Can we move back to the East? Is that
Flip-flop.
is that possible here?
Yeah, and it's crazy because like the 49ers beat the Rams, and after that performance against the Dolphins, you're thinking like, oh, the 49ers still the real deal, and then they come out and show out on Sunday Night Football. And then obviously what Russ is doing in the division, along with this offense with the Cardinals. I'm interested to see who's going to replace Chandler Jones as Russell Wilson's kryptonite, because Chandler Jones always, dominates on that line against the Seahawks, sacking Russell Wilson once or twice a game. So, you're going to have to see a lot more from guys like Zach Allen, Hassan Reddick, who had a pretty exceptional game last night. And hopefully Dennis Gardeck brings his energy too and gives us another dance to celebrate. So a lot on the line.
Do the dance, turn in the corner.
Yeah, literally. So a lot on the line this upcoming Sunday.
A lot on the line. All right, guys, that wraps up our morning scramble. Thanks for joining us right here on Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to click that like button and subscribe. Thanks for joining us this morning. We will see you next week.